Taylor Swift is a master storyteller, and she wants to tell you a story. Through her songs, she paints vivid imagery of the stories from her heart. You feel connected to her as she shares pieces of her life in her lyrics. Since her appearance on the country music scene with a guitar in hand, Taylor Swift has evolved from America's sweetheart to Miss Americana. The young teenager from Nashville once strived for perfection, is now a woman becoming the voice of her generation. She stands strongly for herself, her fans, and women. Her messages of empowerment will resonate for years around the world. Born Taylor Allison Swift, growing up in West Reading, Philadelphia, a regular childhood was not enough. She wanted to become a star. After gaining an interest to become a musician, her parents fully supported her. At 11, she felt Nashville, Tennessee was calling her after she watched a VH1 documentary on Faith Hill. During her first visit to the city, she left a demo CD at the front desk of every record label on Music Row. "I'm Taylor Swift," she'd say, "and I want a record deal." In an interview with American Songwriter, Taylor recalled, "Everyone in that town wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I kept thinking to myself, I need to figure out a way to be different." Like destiny, Taylor decided to pick up guitar. She learned guitar along with songwriting with a local musician and computer repairman, Ronnie Kremer. The first song she wrote was Lucky You, after learning her first 3 chords, C, D, and G on the guitar, and inspired by her grandmother. Later, playing guitar became an essential aspect of her image. In 2004, at age 14, Taylor Swift became the youngest signing in history with Sony ATV. After entering high school, Taylor Swift began meeting Liz Rose for 2-hour writing sessions every Tuesday after school. Rose thought the sessions were some of the easiest I've ever done. Basically, I was just her editor. She'd write about what happened in school that day. She had such a clear vision of what she was trying to say, and she'd come in with the most incredible hooks. Taylor later said, "I genuinely felt that I was running out of time. I wanted to capture these years of my life on an album while they still represented what I was going through." Taylor later left Sony, but her incredible drive paid off. At 15, she negotiated with former Universal executive Scott Borchetta at Big Machine Records as her new label. At 16, she released her eponymous debut studio album, and nothing was ever the same. Piggybacking off Tim McGraw's star power to drum up interest in her single,